Hello and welcome to a Bergkamp Wonderland. I'm Gimli, and tonight we have a special Myths of the BSM podcast lined up. So with no further ado, let me introduce you to my right-hand man and button monkey to the stars. It's Danny the GFP. Hello, Danny.
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Was that a lot better for you?
Oh, that was 43rd time lucky.
See, the wonders of editing.
It is. You're like the Jovino of this podcast. You one in every 17 you get right.
I wish I could get a Roma.
Hey.
Whee. Right, next up, I'm delighted to welcome not one member of the BSM, but three. Joining me is Raj, Reg, and Mark, or as you might know him, Highbury Harold on Twitter. If you'd like to give a brief introduction of yourself, gents, and we'll start with Raj.
Do I have to give my age?
Age, sex, location.
47. There you go. I started watching the Arsenal back in the late 70s, 1979, to be honest. And at the ripe old age of 13, my uncle took me to the first few games. The first three were actually draws. And he was quite happy about that because he said to me, that's the way to support Arsenal, no expectations. So been with them since then. Got a season ticket. We'll be there this season. And we'll see what happens over the next few years, really. But I'll always be at the Arsenal.
Fantastic. Reg, we'll move over to you.
Yep, I know it. Been going over there since 1975. September, 2-2 draw at home to Everton. Frank Stapleton got a last-minute equaliser. My neighbours had taken me over to Chelsea a couple of times before that to see the Arsenal, but that was my first one at Highbury. Did my apprenticeship in the North Bank, onto the clock end, and then in the early 80s, like most of the lads, into the West Lower, and had a season ticket there ever since '87.
Brilliant. Right, we'll move over to Mark finally.
Evening. People would probably expect to be some 90-year-old geezer, but I'm probably the second youngest person on this podcast tonight. I didn't become an Arsenal fan. I was born one, basically. My family all come from Islington. My great-grandparents and great-great-grandparents have been going to see the Arsenal since Arsenal came to Islington, basically. Grandparents were taken by their parents in the 30s, so it's sort of carried on down the generations, really. My first game over the Arsenal was sort of about 79 against Coventry, which was a 1-1 draw. Fantastic. And it's just carried on. Like Reg was saying, I did my apprenticeship. Instead of going in the junior gunners enclosure, we always used to bunk into the North Bank. So it was North Bank through at the clock end. And now I'm a season ticket holder, Block 4, over the Emirates Bowl. So lower tier up near the North Bank, and that's me. And counting generations, probably 6 generations, actually, when you count all of us, what with my kids, my brother's kids. So it's a long old line of Arsenal fans going through my family. And that's it.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much, gentlemen. So we'll move into, because you've answered my first question, which was how did you all become Arsenal fans, which is fantastic. But we'll move straight on to the next one then, which is many will be familiar with the billboard that you put outside the stadium. Can you tell us the story behind it and your motivation for doing it, Raj?
It was to make a statement, to be quite honest, not just about our aims and ambitions, but also just to put us in the foreground rather than like being a shadowy group, which we had been for about 6 months. We knew that what we put up on the billboard was going to be controversial. We wanted it to be controversial. We wanted it to create a reaction amongst the fans, and it did that. A lot of it was negative, which was fair enough, but it got people talking, not just about the group, but also about the issues that we're trying to bring up. The billboards, we got a tip off from a friend of ours, and he said that the space was available. So we got the donations together, rang up Clear Channel, and booked the billboard. And Mark thought of putting the word forward ? On the billboard because that word was on the shirts. And we then decided to put the lines speaking for the silent majority. I'm trying not to laugh, actually, because every time I think of that, I just piss myself laughing. We put speaking for the silent majority at the bottom because we knew it would just wind people up. And, it worked.
Mm. I believe you're the most followed organisation around Arsenal. Can you tell us how the BSM started and how many members it has, Reg?
We started probably close on to 4 years ago now. like a lot of things, sitting around in a pub, moaning about the way things were going over at our club and the people that run it. And we decided we'd actually do something about it when people started saying to us, actually, yeah, I agree with you on that. So we thought, well, we ain't a couple of, a few old blokes sitting in a pub moaning about it. And next thing you know, we're getting people contacting us left, right, and centre. Also putting their own feelings on our website about how they felt that the club had lost its way. And we're talking about things off the pitch here. We're not talking about on the pitch matters. This is off the pitch. And it's snowballed from there, really. We seem to represent a huge number of disenfranchised Arsenal fans out there who, for one reason or another, just don't bother going over there anymore because they feel that the people that run our club don't know what it means to be part of Arsenal Football Club. To me, the club is the fans. It's purely the fans. It's not the board of directors. It's not the team that represents us, and it's not the manager. Because without the fans, there is no club. Okay, so where I come from, when I talk about the club, I'm talking about all of us that pay our hard-earned money and give up our time to go and support them all around the country and all over Europe. I don't use the club as being those people that are actually running it. That's where I come from with it. And of course, we got a lot of people that felt the same. So we decided rather than sitting there behind a keyboard, we'd get off our backsides and actually do something.
And fair play to you for that. It's widely believed that as an organisation or a group, so to speak, you are Wenger out. Is that true? And what are your personal views? And I'll ask all of you this, but we'll start off with Mark.
As a group, certainly not. It's never, as Reg said just a while ago. As a group, our focus isn't anything to do with the matters on the pitch. It's basically how the club is being run and the relationship with the fans. Personally, some people believe I want Wenger out, which isn't the case. Actually, I'm not part of the arse and nose brigade. I'm not part of the Wenger out brigade. Honestly, some of the stuff I see on Twitter daily is ridiculous. The cult following Wenger has is sometimes a bit scary. On the flip side, some of the abuse I see coming the manager's way is just well over the mark. And obviously the two have actually come to blows. The AKB side got physically violent last season towards some fans. So I don't condone any of that. I just think it's crap. As for myself, I just sort of sit well and truly in the middle of the two. I respect Wenger for what he's done for the club, the brand of football he brought, the success he brought in the first few years. At times he annoys the hell out of me. I listen to some of the stuff he comes out with in interviews and I think, oh Christ, don't say that. Do I want him gone? No, certainly not at the moment. But I think as the manager, it's coming a bit towards last chance saloon for Wenger. Ivan Gazidis has heaped a whole load of pressure on him with the Q&A he did at the back end of last season. He's put it all on Wenger's doorstep, really. He's been one of our greatest managers of all time. As Reg said earlier on, no one's bigger than the club. And the club's motto that they were using was forward. So I'd rather not spend our time banging on about what he's achieved in the past and former glories. Because if we do that, we end up like Liverpool fans, or even worse, that smelly lot down the road. So I'd rather look forward. But certainly, I'm not Wenger out personally. So that's me.
And Reg?
Well, similar to Mark, really. My main focus, and it always has been, is the fans. They're the ones that make up the club. And look, I've been going over there, as I said, since '75, and I've seen more shit teams than I've seen good teams over at Arsenal. So I appreciate the good sides when we get them. But that side of things has never really troubled me in the same way that it has with other people. I look at I've had some heroes on the pitch, obviously, with Dennis Bergkamp and Liam Brady, but a lot of my heroes are the people that are off the pitch, the people that follow the club. And that's where my focus is. And as far as Wenger is concerned, I argue with myself over him. I sat here the other day and I was slagging him off big time because I thought, well, here we go, just yet another round of smoke and mirrors. And then, the next day I'm saying, oh, look what he's done for us in the past. Maybe he's doing this for this, that and the other. none of us are going to know truly what's gone on behind the scenes until he eventually leaves the club, which he will do one day. You know, who knows when it will be, but he will leave one day. And when he writes his book, then maybe the truth will come out about what's gone on behind the scenes. You know, we do have friends in high places within the club. We do get some little bits of snippets of information, etc. And it's difficult to know where to point the finger of blame at times, because blame does need to be apportioned out there somewhere, because something is not right. You know, the board are saying at one point we've got lots of money to spend, and the manager turns around and says, I have to work with the resources we've got. Well, someone's pulling the wool over our eyes, you know, and it's getting, the atmosphere out there is worse and worse, and it hurts me when I see Arsenal on Arsenal, because to me it's always been a big family, and that's what attracted me to the Arsenal in the first place. You know, my first season we could have been relegated, you know, in '75. What attracted me to the club was the way the fans acted amongst themselves, you know, and that's why I think we're the best club in the world. You know, we've not always got the greatest team, but I think we've got the greatest bunch of fans around. But what they're doing to each other at the moment is heartbreaking, you know, and we want to try and do our bit to unite those fans. But, you know, the people that run our club seem to be doing the best they can to try and split everybody up.
Yeah.
So, you know, there you go. I'm torn. I'm torn.
And finally, over to you, Raj.
I'm not too sure what to say about Arsene Wenger. I mean, there's that loyalty to him for what he's achieved at the club, and you can't ignore that. Is he the right man for the job now? I don't know. Sometimes I say yes, sometimes I say no. I'm not the type that's going to go out and slag him off on a social media platform or even defend him. But he seems to have lost his mojo in the last couple of years. I don't know whether he's got that knack now of unearthing quality players for not a lot of money. And I don't know whether he'll be here next year, to be quite honest. I mean, he may run out his contract and leave in June next year. He's got one big challenge left within him, but there's a part of me that says it might not be with this club.
So I think a lot of the negative press that you maybe get from the Arsenal fans would be due to your march, because I know a lot of people turned up, but there's a lot of people that are also naive as to what happened and how many people turned up. I know there's also a lot of confusion in the media and as at the club as well. Would you like to tell us about the march, Raj?
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing. There's a lot of people this week asking for us to march again against Arsene Wenger. And in fact, I think today it's just been announced that someone's organised a march against the manager. And I'm quick to add that it's not us. But it does take time to organise these marches. The police said that there were around 2,250 people on the march back in December of last year. What I was disappointed about was that the club reported it as 500, and the journalists on that day actually reported it as 500 as well, which is outrageous, I thought. The story at the club that day was that they actually fed and watered the journalists around the same time as the march, which I think was deliberate. And the PR people would just come in every now and again saying that there's 500 people on the march, you know, and they just took it as read. Apart from one journalist who decided to take a look for himself and actually came back and told the rest of the guys, he said, look, you know, if you want to quote the correct numbers, then go and have a look out the window. But unfortunately, people like Jeremy Wilson at the Daily Telegraph went ahead and quoted 500. But as Mark will tell you now, I mean, the site was pretty big from Avenel Road.
Yeah, it was. I sort of was going up and down the walk when it first got going from out on Blackstock Road, and as we got into Avenel Road and walked up to the top of the hill, I sort of was up near the front of it when it got to the very top, and sort of turned around to look how far it was going back down the road and how the people were being all shepherded along. And in terms of numbers, I've got to say it was probably about 10 to 15 people wide at least. And it stretched from the top of Avenel Road down past the entrance to the Marble Halls and literally just round or just coming round Elwood Street, the road that leads down to the Gunners. So anyone that knows the length of Avenel Road will get some idea as to how many people that actually is. If that's 500, I think the person counting it must have been Stevie Wonder. because there was a hell of a lot of people. The police estimated just over 2,000, and I've got to say that's probably pretty accurate. And there were some people that said, "Oh, I was at the armory and I saw some people knocking about on the roundabout afterwards." Well, yeah, that was after it finished. There was still a few stragglers at the end, but if anybody saw the number of people walking across the bridge at the south end of the stadium and says that was 500, then you're having a laugh. Really, it was definitely 2,000. I mean, that sight down Avenel Road was just very satisfying. And it's great to see people coming out and supporting us. People said it was going to be a Wenger out march, and we were adamant it wasn't. We went to great lengths to make sure it wasn't. It was, if anyone that was actually on it, there was a few anti-Bald chants, fair enough, a couple of anti-Gazidis chants, okay. The majority of it was pro-Arsenal, and it was great. It was literally like creating an atmosphere just on the walk. And someone commented to me, he said, "Oh, it's like being back in the North Bank." And it was great. Some of the pro-Arsenal chanting, fantastic, and it's what we're missing in the ground, really. But there you go.
I was going to say, I was going to add to that. If anybody still wants to dispute those numbers, all they've got to do is go on Arsenal Fan TV, because Robbie and his team filmed that march all day long, from about midday when we met on Blackstock Road, all the way up to the roundabout. And there's some great clips there of the amount of people who were actually there. So anybody wants to dispute what we're actually saying, there's your video evidence.
And do you have any plans for marches in the future?
Yeah, we're working on something at the moment. Once we've finalised all the details on it, we'll put it out to our members first of all, and sound them out on a number of ideas. But we've certainly got something organised for later on this season.
Fantastic. As a group, you seem to have had a lot of bad press over the years. Can you give us any examples of this? I'll go to you, Raj.
We've had that from day one, basically. And I'm sure a lot of people would say it's justified, because we shouldn't be speaking out against the club, that we've got no right to do it, that we bring the club into disrepute. But I don't agree with that, to be quite honest. I think our club has had a history of dissension amongst the fans. 1983, I remember a protest against Terry Neill outside the East Stand, and I read that in '66 they went against Billy Wright, and Hillwood Senior actually said that he would never sack Billy Wright. He would rather resign. But in the end, he did sack Billy Wright because of falling attendances and Arsenal losing money and stuff. So we've got a right to dissent, but we've attracted, some horrendous abuse over the last 3 years, and it kind of carries on a daily basis. So we've had to kind of have thick skins about it. I'll quote you one, which is how bad it can get.
Don't worry about swearing.
Well, you're going to get it now.
Oh my God.
Here we go. Ready?
Yep.
These fruity faggots are part of the fucking fascist BNP fucking cocksuckers. They are homo fruity cross-dressers. So, you got a laugh about that. You get that. To be honest, myself and Reg have been quite lucky, and we haven't had as much abuse as Mark has. But I think Mark will tell you now, but he gets it all, and he kind of weathers the storm.
Sort of weather the storm. I was probably the first BSM person on Twitter, so my profile was probably been out there the longest. So people just sort of hook onto it. I generally speak my mind. I sort of say things how I see them. And I get that there's people out there don't like the club being criticised in any way, shape or form. Some get upset by it, some get scarily upset by it. I've had I've had death threats galore. I've had people telling me they're going to cause me serious damage. So I get that people don't like it, but we've always said as a group, we're not going to sit there and just sort of nod along and go with whatever the club try and fob us off with. If there's something that needs to be said, we'll say it. And it's Twitter at the end of the day. It's a matter of opinion. People are allowed opinions, as long as we're not libelous, outrageously abusive or whatever. We weather a fair amount of criticism. Happily, I can report that a lot of people are now coming round to sort of seeing what we're about. And you've heard stories about how we grew to support and love the club. So to say to accuse us of being against the club or not loving the club is massively wide of the mark. I mean, I've got an Arsenal crest tattooed at the top of my right arm. Love the club to bits. Want the best for the club. Want the best for our fans. If it means ruffling feathers within the club and challenging the club when they become complacent, then so be it, I'm afraid. That's it. So, I mean, people say that all I do on Twitter is post negative stuff and I never say anything good about the club. I sort of, a line I quite frequently use is I think you need to take them blinkers off. People seem to conveniently ignore, but I sort of knock up quite a lot of pro-Arsenal images, design pro-Arsenal banners. I designed a flag for Red Action in the past. I criticise my club, but it's because at the end of the day, it's because I love my club. I support my club. I promote my club, and that's basically it. But if people want to get upset, they can get upset.
See, I didn't know whether it was a myth of the BSM or not, but we agreed to have you guys on, and all week we have thrown out the actual podcast message and what it was going to be called, because this is called a Myth of the BSM podcast, and many people have actually come back with just the most mental questions, and I know you boys have been included it as well. That last night there was one guy, he came back, must have been 25 questions, and they were all like, well, if Arsene Wenger wins a trophy, are you going to disband and things like that. I mean, it's a bit sad to see, isn't it, Raj?
Oh, we're not going to disband just because we win a trophy. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, we keep saying it's got nothing to do with being on the pitch. But when you're on Twitter, you kind of say some stuff about the BSM and some stuff which is a personal view. So I'm always going to have a moan about transfers and stuff because I'm an Arsenal supporter and I want us to buy players for this season. We've all said over the last 2 or 3 years that we're only 2 or 3 players short of a truly competitive team. I think it's asking a bit much to expect trophies from any team. I think this 8 years without a trophy thing is bollocks. It's not about trophies. For me personally, it's about getting a team that can compete. And I've said for quite a long time, we only need 2 or 3 really good players to do that. But in terms of going back to this abuse thing, I think Gimli, you've experienced that yourself this week, so you had a taste of what we get on a daily basis.
Oh, definitely. I've seen. I must have seen from agreeing to have you guys on the podcast. I must have seen probably every swear word under the sun this week, probably aimed at either one of you or all of you at the same time. I can say it's not nice, and to actually do what you guys do and get the abuse that you do when you're so misconceived. I personally, I take my hat off to you guys. I definitely do. I think that many people actually don't understand, and it's nice that you can come on things like this and put your point across, because at the end of the day, you're just regular fans.
I mean, we've been accused of being wife beaters, thugs, I mean, all sorts. And you saw that quote I just read out. I mean, we're passionate fans and we're doing things a little bit differently to the other groups. We're asking direct questions. We're not taking the club ignoring us any longer. So, we're a bit more forward with what we say. But if you kind of peel away all the layers, in the end, in the middle, you'll find an Arsenal supporter, and that's what it is. We're all Arsenal supporters, whether you're a member of the BSM, AST, ASA, Red Action, or whatever. We're all the same in the end. And I think everyone has to agree that we all want the same things. But we'll just keep fighting, basically.
No, definitely. My last question that we have planned for you guys, and we'll go over to some listener questions in a minute, and also we'll talk about what you guys want for the club in terms of transfers and whatnot. But our last question from us is, we understand that you had a controversial email regarding the futures of Cesc Fabregas, Samir Nasri, Gael Clichy, Song, and the cut stunt. Can you tell us a bit more about that in detail?
It was a meeting I had, a business meeting, basically. I've been working in the media, aspects of the media for the last 25 years. So I've kind of gathered a lot of friends who are journalists, not just in football, but in other sports and other subject matters as well. And I had a meeting about something back in 2011. And this guy that I had a meeting with told me that he had a very strong connection to the club. And he told me a whole load of stuff, and I thought, this can't be right. This is all wrong. So I kind of went home that night, and rang up a very good friend of mine who's a football journalist and asked him the same question, and he said he'd ring me back. But in the end, he just emailed me. This was Kelvin. Was it June the 12th or something, 2011?
It was June the 13th. It was 2 days after Ivan Gazidis Q&A with AST and with AST.
So basically, the email basically just said Clichy was gone, Cesc and Nasri were about to go. That was done, but they didn't know when they would leave. Probably towards the end of the summer. And there was a footnote at the bottom of the email which said Song was restless, and Robin van Persie was happy where he was at the moment, but knew what his options were. Sadly, all 5 players went in the space of 18 months, but those 3 players in the summer of 2011 definitely went. And I never kind of publicised it because I've got this problem with ITKs. These in the know peoples, and if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know that I'm always slagging them off. And I hate it that they kind of create so much shit amongst fans and get them all depressed and stuff like that. So there was nothing I was going to do about it because it was quite depressing news anyway. But it happened. And the funny thing was, about a month later after we got that email, I think Arsene Wenger came out with, if you're not, if we sell Cesc and Nasri, we're not an ambitious club. And I couldn't believe he said that. And being kind of obsessed with conspiracy theories and all that kind of stuff, I just thought, well, are they just selling these players behind his back? He's got no control over it. I might be totally wrong, but that's what I thought. So I didn't go public with it, but I think, Kelvin, you put it on the forum somewhere, didn't you?
Excuse me. The Arsenal.com used to have a fans forum, which they've now taken away because they were getting so much criticism about the way the club was being run. But I actually put a heading on there called Going, Going, Gone. And like yourself, I've got no time for sort of transfer speculation whatsoever. It bores me to tears, and people that take part in it, I think they should get a life, a lot of them. But anyway, this one struck a chord because of the content of the email, because of its source, and because at the time there was no hint of Clichy going anywhere, yet his name was in there as someone who's gone. And bearing in mind, this is about 2-3 weeks before the transfer window was opened. So I put on there the fact that I'd got this information, and people were commenting on the fact that I don't comment on transfers, so there might be something in it. And I put my hands up and I said, look, I've got this from a very reliable source. If I'm wrong, I apologise profusely, and I would never ever post on this forum ever again. Well, before the deals all went through, the Arsenal forum was pulled, but someone did manage to take a screenshot of it, and we did, after it was done, somebody posted up another forum as a reminder that I had actually predicted it, and that I also said I didn't want it to be true. But there you go. I don't like getting involved in transfer stuff. All I want to know is that we've signed someone, there he is in his shirt, and he's going to play for us next year, and he's going to try his hardest. All this speculation bores me to tears, and I switch off big time.
Yeah. Danny, you've been very quiet tonight.
Yeah, what was the date that I'm just looking on my own list of transfers. What was the date that you got that email, roughly?
June the 13th.
Yeah,
13th of June. Because
Yeah,
if people aren't aware...
Give or take a couple of days.
Roughly.
Yeah, so if people aren't aware, you got that email, say, about the 13th of June, saying no one's saying that these people are going to go. I remember clearly that summer, Wenger coming out and going, we're not going to sell these players. Nobody is going. So you got it about the 13th of June. 4th of July, Gael Clichy leaves to Man City for £7 million. 15th of August, Cesc Fabregas leaves Barcelona for about 35 million, give or take. And then 24th of August, Samir Nasri goes to Man City for another £24 million. So that was £66 million the club knew they were going to make, but yeah, do you reckon they shoved Wenger out there and go, look, they're selling them, they know they're selling them, the clubs know they're going to buy them, but you get out there, tell the fans they're not going anywhere. Do you reckon they did that on purpose so people would keep buying the season tickets, so people would keep buying shirts with their names on the backs?
Well, put it this way, the club, Gazidis has done it again this year. 2 weeks before the transfer window opens up, on the eve of a Q&A session he was going to have, he comes out in the press and tells everyone that Arsene Wenger's got all the money to spend. It's down to Arsene Wenger to spend it. He did the same last season. He did it the season before. Now, if this is true, that Arsene Wenger does have the money to spend, but he refuses to spend it, then somebody on the board needs to grow some balls and tell him, our fans are putting so much money into this club, they're invested in the future of this club, why don't you go out and spend it? And if you don't spend it, then I'm sorry, you can't stick around, you're not going to extend your contract. The board that we've got are weak as shit. They're absolutely hopeless. They don't know how to run a football club. Gazidis would tell you, I've spent 20 years in Major League Soccer. Well, bugger off. That's American football. It's not like British football, English football. It's totally different. If you can't work out how it is you do things over here, go away. Why are you on a tour of Asia when all the other CEOs are back over here trying to sign players? What's the point of you being out in Asia? Sort yourself out. Tuck away your £2.1 million that you get, plus all those bonuses for making a profit, and actually put something back into the club. Because I bet if he had to pay for his season ticket, he wouldn't be coming over here. The guy makes me absolutely sick. He's a smarmy little shithouse. Sorry.
See, that's,
Very well said.
That's the thing I say to people that go, why? I'm not negative. I'm on the fence. A while ago we had GC and Jeff. One was pro Arsene Wenger, one was anti Arsene Wenger, and I can fight either camp. I think it's time for Wenger to either shit or get off the potty. That's all he's got to do. But people say, how can you be so negative about the club? I'm not. I'm negative about the bloke who owns it. First thing, he's not an Arsenal fan. Second thing, he doesn't give a shit about football. So there you go. So if the person who's the captain of the boat doesn't give a shit about boats or sailing, we're all fucked until we get someone else in charge.
I personally think that Wenger is a puppet for the board. Gazidis because a couple of years ago Gazidis said, well, he'll be answerable to fans, and now he's put this thing out there. We've got loads of money. I just think that Wenger goes out there and sort of gives out the messages he's been told to give. There's something fishy going on at board level. There's something they're not telling us, and someone mentioned season ticket sales. It happens every single May, about around April or May. Our press department, they think they're clever. There'll be a few little stories leaked out there to the press, a few names put out there. All of a sudden, the press will stir up a bit of interest in. Arsenal are looking to sign this. It's going to be a big summer. Gazidis come out. It's going to be. We've got all this financial firepower. Season ticket renewals go through. Bam, silence, nothing. Other clubs going out there and strengthening. We'll talk about this later on anyway about transfers. But I don't put it all on the manager. I think the manager does the job he's given to do. That doesn't make sense, does it really? But I just think he's basically the board's puppet at the end of the day.
Do you think that I can't definitely say this for a fact, but I get the feeling that the club, when they say it's time to renew your season tickets, the amount of time they give you to pay is getting less and less every year, maybe only by a few days or a week. Is that true? Or am I imagining it?
I think with that. It's always been June the 1st. Ever since I've had a season ticket, it's always been June the 1st. So people know in August that by June the 1st they got to do it. However, this season they put it back to the 7th of June. So... that side of it, I don't see any conspiracy there. I would love to find stuff to criticise the club about, but at the end of the day, it's my club, and I want to find things to praise them for. We keep being told that we've got to protest about things, but I'd like to praise them for stuff when they get it right. Unfortunately, they don't seem to get it right that often nowadays. But June the 1st is something that's always been.
It's always been June the 1st. I think the reason why it seemed that we was given no time this year, the club didn't actually give out the prices for season tickets because they couldn't, because we didn't actually get into the top four, potentially qualify for the Champions League. We didn't make the top four until the last day of the season, which was 19th of May. So they can't go out there giving us our season ticket price if we were going to fall arse over tit against Newcastle, come 5th and be in the Europa League, because they couldn't possibly charge Champions League prices for us going to watch Arsenal against FC Flip-Flop in the Europa League.
Because it's been quite a time. The last time I had to renew a season ticket was for what was the first season at Cash Burton? Was it 06-07?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the last time I had to renew was 2006, and that was the last time I did after 20 years of having one for 20 years. So I couldn't remember.
Yeah, I think it's basically because they had to hold on and they couldn't announce prices because they didn't know what European competition was going to be in. So they announced the prices literally a day or two after the end of the season, which gave people about 10 days to pay. But as Reg said, they extended it because there was a whole balls up with renewal packs going out, and some people getting emails, some people not getting emails. I didn't get a pack through the post. Some people did get a pack through the post. It was a shambles, really. Probably because they were working their asses off trying to get the renewals sorted in the space of a few days. But there you go.
So why do I vaguely remember someone saying that whether we're in the WAFA Cup or the Champions League, prices would be the same next season? Was that another thing that I dreamt?
That's got to be crap. They can't possibly. They know for a fact they can't charge Champions League prices. I mean, you're gonna charge the same prices as us watching Arsenal against AC Milan, or Arsenal versus bloody Shamrock Rovers, or whoever else is playing in the Europa League. You can't do it. It's the Capital One Cup of Europe. No one wants to be in it. It seems to go on forever. There's about 8,000 league games, mini league games. Then, I don't pay any attention to it. It's just a tin pot competition that I've got no interest in whatsoever.
I'd love to play Shamrock Rovers. Love to go over there like Celtic are just are playing an Irish team at the moment. Raj, did you say earlier that you wanted to say something about ITKs? Because I'm sure we remember telling me something about it.
No, I just wanted to publicly say I hate them all.
Is that it?
Yeah,
I'm sure you've got more than that to say.
No, I think they're a disgrace. I think all these predictions, the stuff I've seen, and a lot of people have seen over the last 2 months, Higuain's done and dusted, he's having a medical, this bloke's signed and all that. It's absolute bollocks. And what it does is it just creates shit on Twitter. And it creates depression amongst fans when it doesn't happen. And all sorts of people are now claiming to be ITKs. Phil Wall of the AST actually had a spoof day.
Oh, that was brilliant when he did
and
this.
It was genius. He pretended to be an ITK for a day, and he got like hundreds of followers and lots of questions about who was signing and all that kind of stuff. It was brilliant. It was absolutely fantastic. But I think they're just a disgrace. I just think it just drives me mad. Sorry, but. On 2nd of September, I'm going to name and shame them all. I'm going to start the purge, basically.
There are genuinely some people that we have spoke to that do know people at the club, but it's just all the other ones that just go on websites and make it up.
The really well-known ones. I know
the one you're thinking about. He's got his own website and he says everything about every player linking to every club, so then you go to his website and he gets hits.
Opinion Dan and Giles and, oh God, it's just... honestly, I'd love to meet them. I'd just love to meet them. It's just one of those things. But I think they're a disgrace. So I think anyone who follows them are mad. They're absolutely mad. There's people like Jeff Arsenal who does come up with some true ones, and I'm not including him in this one. But there are plenty of others who are just fools, And
don't you go starting on our Jeff.
Oh. He's got too many fingers in too many pies.
I'm excluding him out of that one.
Good.
There are.
Remember. If anyone's an Arsenal fan for any length of time, anyone would tell you that Arsenal don't do their business in public. They never have done. We only found out, the Suarez deal only come to light because it was Liverpool that actually leaked that one to the press. Arsenal have always done their business behind closed doors, which is always surprising when Gazidis comes out and says we got so much money to spend, because straight away that's going to inflate the price of someone. So if you're going to do business behind closed doors, then don't tell anybody how much money you've got to piss up the wall.
That links me to something very nicely, and we'll talk about transfers now. There's been loads of names linked with the club over the summer. Do you think that they're actually willing to spend the money? Mark?
Who knows? How long's a piece of string? I really haven't got a clue. I've had, first of all, can I just say I'm looking forward to the 2nd of September because I'm picturing Raj now like Michael Douglas in Falling Down. He literally got a small armament factory that he's been stocking up in his house or something, and he's going to go and take out all these ITKs. But no, I had people coming to me saying, "Oh, what do you think about this rumour?" Or I've heard someone on Twitter say we're signing this player, that player, and my stock answer all the time is don't hold your breath. I don't know. I was every summer I get to the point where I'm sort of thinking I'm hopeful that we're gonna take it seriously. I've said all along I'd love us to go out and get business done early, sign players, have a full pre-season, get the team settled and hit the ground running. once again, we're in August now. We've got less than 2 weeks till the season starts, and it's all lastminute.com again. It looks like we're possibly going to have another trolley dash, which is just crap. When you see the amount of money we've got to spend, it's been publicised that we've got that money available. It's there. It can be spent. It's not being spent. Don't know why it's not being spent. It annoys the shit out of me, to be perfectly fair. But I don't know. I don't know is the honest answer. I don't know if we're going to spend it. Don't know if we're not going to spend it. But I'm just ambivalent to it all, really. I don't know. I do care, but who knows? It could be anything. We could go out and spend a shitload of money tomorrow. It'd surprise me if we did, given form over recent seasons. I think we need to, as Raj said earlier on. I think it's well documented among many fans that we're 2 or 3 top quality players away from having a real decent squad and a real decent team. Why we feel the need to deny the squad or the fans or the team that, I don't know. We've seen players get pissed off and leave because of the lack of ambition. Personally, I think Stan Kroenke and his cohorts in the boardroom are just happy for us to make top 4 because it brings in a nice little tidy profit. I don't think Kroenke gives a shit about football, to be honest. He's hardly ever over here. Doesn't really know the game. I'm aware I'm rambling on this point now.
Yeah,
but,
no.
at the end of the day, I couldn't give you an answer. I don't know what to be honest.
Okay, we'll move straight over to Reg then. Do you think that we would ever feasibly spend £50 million on a player? And that player talking about is Luis Suarez.
No, I don't believe it for 1 minute. Honestly, I honestly can't see them ever doing anything like it. I really do think it's smoke and mirrors, and we're banding about this figure of £50 million for a player like Suarez, and yet we've got reports in the paper today about poor old Kenny Sanson, and it makes you sometimes just makes you think to yourself, what world of football fans living in when they start banding these sort of money figures about, and that's why with transfers, I do find the whole thing extremely boring. I really do. I mean, at times I hear these names being bandied about, and I have to get on FIFA 13 or something to see who it is, because I ain't got a clue now. And I'm sure it always seems to come out at half term. And I'm sure most of these people that put these rumours about have been on FIFA 13 and looked at the Israeli Division 2 or something and picked up some centre back who's got a score rating of 96 or something and thought, oh, we'll make a good target with the Arsenal. Start banding his name about. In fact, I might even try that as a wind-up one season.
That was just Arsene Wenger. I hear he did a very similar thing with Matteo Flamini, where he actually scoured Europe, didn't he, looking for a defensive midfielder, and he looked at all the stats that had come out over the year, and Flamini was in one of the top 2 or 3. So without watching him play, he just went, "We'll have him."
Well, he weren't too bad for us in the end.
No, he didn't. He didn't work out too bad. Although it's a shame he ended up at AC Milan.
Yeah.
He's on a free if we want him.
No, see, we've moved on from there, though.
It's nothing, though. He's not. He can save some money.
Don't go back.
What was that motto? Forward?
Yeah. I don't really think we need Flamini. I just meant he was on a free.
Forward, stop, and then back a bit. Right, Raj, we'll go straight over to you then, and we'll go straight into our listeners' questions, if we may. And our first question comes from a very, very young gunner called Connor, and he's asked me personally to ask you, where did you guys get the name Black Scarf Movement from?
And we chose black and gold, or black and yellow. Yellow because it was the colour that the club seemed to dismiss was historically our away shirt, and gave us everything else. And black because at the time it was the only colour Nike hadn't given us as a away shirt. So that's where we chose the colours from. And of course, scarf is synonymous with being something that football fans wear. So that's where Black Scarf came from. And Black Scarf Movement was just really a nickname for where has our Arsenal gone. But obviously it's taken over. We're not to be confused with the British School of Motoring. And one of the things that I do remember from the early days was people turning around saying, how could you choose black? It's not even an Arsenal colour. And yet, a couple of months afterwards, a couple of months afterwards, in the armoury, you could buy black scarves with gold cannons on and black beanies with gold cannons on. Exactly the same things that we'd been selling on our site to try and raise funds. So
I'll tell you what,
yep.
those BSM marketing people are mustard, aren't they? Always ahead of the game, the BSM, because basically we did it, the club followed.
You heard it here first. Right, we'll move on to the next one then. And this next one comes from a good friend of ours off the show, and on his Twitter name is @Tone50Red.
Oh God, this is going to be painful.
No, it's not. It's actually a really good question.
Go on in.
Bring them on. Bring them on.
He's a lovely bloke, but he's
See,
high on crack
we'll
most
keep
of the
answering
time.
the questions, and you guys keep batting them away. But he asks, what type of peaceful action do the BSM think will drive change in the club, and what has worked so far? Reg?
Well, what do you call peaceful? I mean, obviously, everything that's non-violent, it would be peaceful. So all our marches so far have been peaceful. It's interesting to note, somebody asked us the other day, what have you actually achieved so far? Well, as a group, when we did that, the first march, which was against Aston Villa a couple of seasons ago, when the season ticket prices went up, that chant of 6%, you're having a laugh, reverberated around that ground. And we know people that work at the club, the board were that scared of it. It was unbelievable. And since then, there have been no price increases. Now, whether that's down to us organising the march, whether that's market forces, whatever it is, we know that the board was shit scared after we sang that song, and the prices haven't gone up. We do meet with the club from time to time. We don't discuss things that go on the field because, as we keep on saying, that's not what we're about. It's about the relationship between the fans and the people that run the club. What we're hoping to do, we'll keep badgering away at them. We'll praise them when they do something well, like the Young Guns enclosure. We hope that the times of criticism will get less and less, because the more they talk to us, the more we can advise on things before they make these decisions. Because when it comes around to supporting the club, it's got to come from the fans. It can't be dictated. The club can't dictate to us how they want us to support them. You know, it was Arsenal fans back in the day that started wearing red favours. It wasn't something that the people running the club decided on. That's what the fans decided to do. You know, there's an excellent book, and I won't ramble too much. An excellent book that talks about Arsenal over at Woolwich, and you hear the different gangs of supporters over there and the things that they did, like travelling away and letting off fireworks and stuff like that. Support comes from the fans that follow the club. It shouldn't be dictated to by the club. And that's what seems to have happened in recent years, and that's what something we want to get away from. So there's calls out there for people to boycott this, that and the other. Yes, it might work. Not too sure, 100% convinced that it would, because at the end of the day, we don't want to do anything that's going to cause the club any financial hardship, if you like. But at the end of the day, they've got to realise that they can't keep looking at us as a cash cow. So it's a very fine line to do about what we protest about in the future. And I'm rambling away there, and I can't even remember what I started off with. It's Coors Light, sponsored by Omen. Thank you very much.
that wasn't Tone's original question, was it, Gimli? Do you remember what his original question was?
I can't, no.
Do you get many calls asking for driving lessons? That's that's Tony's kind of level, you cheeky monkey.
Oh, now I can see why you were sat there cringing.
Because I thought, here we go, because he's one of our favourite people, Tone, and he's a very, very cheeky monkey indeed.
He is, and I can see why you slipped that in there. All the people getting their jollies off of that. Danny's a cheeky monkey.
Hey!
Here you go.
Okay, I can answer the driving lessons question.
Yeah.
The answer is no.
Oh, well, that's
basically. So sorry, Tone 50 Red, or what was it? Tone 50 Red? Or...
Yep, Tone 50 Red.
Yeah, sorry, mate. If that disappoints you, but no, we don't.
See, another myth of the BSM smashed here tonight on the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast.
Quash, right. You heard it here.
Right, we'll move on to the next one then, and this one comes from a fella called @Mike Deegan Jr. and he asks, what Arsenal is it you want back, and what do you want in the future? And we'll go straight to Mark with that one.
Oh, Mike Deegan Jr. Love the man. What Arsenal do you want back? Was that the question?
Yeah. What Arsenal is it you want back?
Right. It's a question we get sometimes. It's a bit of a common misconception. People tend to think that we're called, or we say we want our Arsenal back. We've never actually said that. The group's never been called that. the group originally was called Where Has Our Arsenal Gone? Obviously, there were season up and down the country, thousands of fans chanting, "We want our Arsenal back." It happened at Reading, seem to remember, very loudly on the TV. That wasn't our doing. That was just fans showing their frustration because they were pissed off with how things were going. The name of our group from the start was Where Has Our Arsenal Gone? And as been explained earlier, it's basically that the fans that we spoke to when we started this group felt the club used to have a family feel about it, and it cared about its core support. When you went away, all the fans were like a family. The man next to you was your brother. You were all Arsenal together, and the club felt that. The club cared about it. In recent years, it's felt among fans that the club's turned into a big corporate monster that gives absolutely no toss for the loyal fans. And there is only concern with cashing in quick, making a quick pound note wherever it can. We've never really said we want our Arsenal back, so I can't really answer that, to be honest.
No, a lot of people think that you have a hidden agenda. Is that true, Raj?
That's the greatest question that people have asked in the last 3 years. That the usual line is, they're all about ticket prices, but they've got a hidden agenda. And I've never worked out what our hidden agenda is, because it's all up in black and white on our website. I mean, Mark has stressed about it for a long time. I think it's in the same level as the Holy Grail. We're never going to find out what it is, but it's these people who constantly who have made their minds up about us, and they say that we've got a hidden agenda, but I've never been able to find out what it is. I've asked them a million times, what is our hidden agenda, but they won't give me an answer to it. I think Mark's had quite a few of those over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I've had it quite a lot over the past 3 years, really, and it's the same. I say to people, well, what is this hidden agenda? And they're like, well, you know what the hidden agenda is, you're just not saying it. I'm like, well, just enlighten me, please, because I haven't got a bloody clue what you're going on about. But yeah, no hidden agenda. What we say is up on our website. That's what our aims are. If people are still adamant we've got a hidden agenda, I mean, that's their choice. That, but it's not. There you go.
No, very true. Our next question comes from a guy called, and excuse if I get this wrong, his name is Mataza710, and he asked, what do the BSM think would be the best solution to improve the awful atmosphere at the Emirates? And we'll go to Reg.
We want our clock end back. When you move home, the first things you do is, or you move house, the first thing you want to do is you want to make it feel like home. So you put pictures up on the wall and photos on the mantelpiece. Well, it took several seasons for Arsenal to get anything sorted out. But they've done away with our North Bank. They did away with our clock end. They gave us these multicoloured quadrants, etc. Now, thankfully, we've got the North Bank back to a degree. We've got the clock back on the clock end. But just calling it that isn't right. Being on the clock end, as I was back in the late 70s, early 80s, that was when it was at its prime. That was a state of mind. That wasn't it wasn't a place, it was a state of mind. And when we moved to the new stadium, all those supporters that have been together for years up there were just spread out all over the ground. It was almost as if the club said, we're going to get rid of this lot. This lot are the most boisterous lot in the crowd. We don't want that in our new neutral ground. So they've been swept to the four corners of the stadium. And that's why, most of the time we've got a pretty crappy atmosphere over there. Now, Red Action, bless them, they try their hardest, and I've seen the stuff that they've tried to do, and the club have refused them permission to do so, and then they get slaughtered for it. But these are lads who it's just all they want to do is just improve things over there, which is what we want to do, and we'd like to get our clock end back. As I say, it's a state of mind, but as time goes by, those people that stood on the clock end, they're the ones that are sort of disappearing from the ground and, being replaced by people with iPads and what have you. Or as that girl was the other week when we played Liverpool, sitting there caught on a photo knitting in the upper tier when she probably paid about 80 quid for a ticket. The traditional support that we've got over there, they're the ones that we want to come back. And so the clock end is what we're after. That's going to improve the atmosphere. And we've got a couple of little plans lined up. So we're saying to our members, keep an eye on your emails over the coming weeks. We've got a plan coming up, so hopefully you can join us in with that, and we can show the club what it'd be really like if we had something going on up there.
Okay, we'll go to the next one then. Assuming changes at board level are agreed, what do the BSM think a realistic time frame on seeing new faces? And we'll go to Mark on that.
again, who knows? I don't think the board have got any intention of making changes. They sort of seem to be quite happily plodding along where they are. It's nice and cosy in that boardroom. They replaced Peter Hillwood with Mr. Chips off of Catchphrase, or whatever his name is, who's, how old is he, 98 or something? I don't know. But I don't think there's any intention to make positive changes at the moment. So I don't know, really. I think they should make changes. I wrote an article, actually, a couple of years ago about our board, about our group as a whole. From the start, we've said that our board needs to change. It was too complacent. And in this article a couple of years ago, it made suggestions as to what we need. We need more football people on the board. We need people that have got tight connections with the club. At the moment, the board's just full of old duffers who are very rich gentlemen, very cosy. Thank you very much. Love that the club's making a profit. Don't give a shit about whether we're winning on the pitch or not. Don't give a toss about the fans. So I can't see any change coming in the near future, unfortunately. So I think it's needed.
Yes, definitely. We'll move on to our last question of the evening, and that comes from a guy called @DailyAFC, and he asks, what would the BSM reaction be if Stan took dividends out the club? And we'll go straight over to Calvin.
Certainly not. One of the things that the directors of our club, or the shareholders of our club, I should say, correct me, is that they've never taken dividends from our club. And to do so now, for me, it's unspeakable to do something like that. If he wants to make money out of our club, then turn us into the club that we were promised when we moved into the ground. Someone that will compete with the top teams in Europe, not just on the pitch, but in the transfer market. And if he does that, and we become as big as we deserve to be, like the Real Madrid or Barcelona's of this world, then his share value will increase, and that's where he will get his money from. But if he wants to come over to us now and just start taking money out of the club for doing absolutely nothing, well, I don't think there'll be too much of a club left after a little while, to be honest. You know, we'll all still be Arsenal, and we'll be Arsenal to the day we die, because it's there in ink on our arms forevermore. He won't have any money coming into the club because people just won't bother turning up. You know, they're not going to pay their hard-earned money for him to then pocket it. We pay our hard-earned money so that they can invest in the future of our club and invest in a good team. That's something that they've neglected to do in recent seasons. So if he started taking money out, no, I'll fear for our club if he does that.
Does anyone know whether he's got a history of taking money out of the clubs in America? Because I just get the feeling that this is a commodity to him. So
I'm not sure he has, to be perfectly honest. From what I hear, I get a lot of comment and connections from fans in America that follow the clubs that he owns. And the general opinion is he's bad news. He'll asset strip. He's quite happy for teams that he owns to plod along. As long as they're plodding along, making a profit, he's happy. Doesn't necessarily care if they're competing for honours or anything. And that's the basic. That's the general opinion I get. The guy's bad news, and people say to me, whatever you do, don't let him pass power on to his son. I think it's Josh Kroenke. Apparently his son's about 10 times worse. So they said that guy is just the devil. Don't even, you don't want to go near him. So yeah, thanks whoever have got Kroenke involved. Lovely.
Yeah, well, that was our old pal David Dean who introduced him to the club. And just one of the things, just going back about Kroenke and whatever, at the AGM last year, he was specifically asked whether he was going to take any money out of the club. And from what I can remember, I don't think there was an answer to it. One of the other things that he also did in a takeover, well, when he did the takeover bid, he made a promise in a legal document to meet supporters groups. That's something he's never done since he's taken over. So at the moment, he's not acting in accordance with the legal document that was part of his takeover. So that's something he needs to be questioned further on, because if he's here at the next AGM, which I'm sure he will be, hopefully Gazidis won't be protecting him.
Fantastic. So that draws us to an end then for all the questions tonight. We'll go over to Raj now quickly, because I understand he wants to talk about charities and a certain event that you guys have coming up.
Yeah, well, Mark will talk to you about the boat trip. But yeah, I mean, it's just one of the things that we do isn't just about being a pressure group or protesting or being against the club all the time. Is that we do donate to charities all the time as well. And I think in the last 3 or 4 years, we've probably raised about £12,000-13,000, and Great Ormond Street and Willow have benefited from that. One of the best nights I'll ever remember in my whole life was the Rocky Remembered gig that happened about 2 years ago, and a big nod to Red Action as well, who were involved in that heavily as well. And it was probably the most successful thing I've ever organised, and I do events for a living, so it was absolutely brilliant. So yeah, we've got a boat trip coming up in August, and we change our charities every year, and we're about to change to a new one, and Mark will give you some more details now.
Yeah, I mean, we've got the, we've publicised it on our website and on Twitter and that. We've got the boat party coming up on the 24th of August. We've gone for a bigger boat now, actually, because there was quite a bit of interest. We've still got a few tickets knocking about, so if people want to come and join us, it's basically a big party and a celebration about being Arsenal.
And how much is that to get on the boat?
The ticket is £20.
So
basically, it's down. It's a sort of a cruise up and down the Thames. There'll be music. We're sort of saying to people, if you've got flags, bring along your flags. We would just want to make it a good time, really. But yeah, as Raj was saying, any proceeds from that, we'll be making a donation to charity. As Raj also said, we sort of had a nominated charity, which was the Willow Foundation. It's now going to be changing to the Ben Kinsella Trust, and that for me is a fantastic charity. For those that aren't aware, Ben Kinsella, very talented young man, 16 years old, Arsenal fan, big Arsenal fan. He was murdered, sort of an unprovoked, violent attack, and the pain that Ben's family have had to go through since that is just unimaginable. I hold the family in the highest esteem for what they've been through and how they've handled the whole situation. They set up the Ben Kinsella Trust in Ben's memory, and the aim is to raise awareness of knife crime and the effect it has on everyone involved. And their work is tireless. Brooke Kinsella has put so much effort into it. She actually got an MBE a couple of years ago, 18 months, 2 years ago. I've spoken to Brooke a few times, actually, and said that we'd like to make Ben Kinsella Trust our nominated charity. And she's absolutely delighted that we've chosen to raise whatever we can for the trust. We've invited the Kinsella family along, the reps for the charity. We've invited them along to the boat party. We hope that they can make it along. But yeah, I mean, this is sort of an official announcement that Ben Kinsella Trust will be our nominated charity from now on. But it's a fantastic cause.
What we'll do then, before we cut this off, I want each of you to summarise about 30 seconds for your hopes for the season and how you want to see Arsenal progressing. We'll start with Raj.
Buy 2 or 3 players and compete. That's all I'm asking for. I'm not asking for trophies, just get a competitive team out there. And if we get the right players, the trophies will come naturally. Hopefully what you've heard tonight about the BSM shows us that we're not monsters, we're not ogres, we're not bastards or whatever you all call us or whatever, that we're just Arsenal supporters who have got a huge passion for the club. And hopefully we'll get some support from some of you. If you're still anti-BSM, that's fair enough. That's your opinion. But at least you've heard what we've had to say, and hope you'll accept that.
Fantastic. Over to Reg.
Yep, I just want what I always wanted. I just want a team that plays for the shirt, plays with passion. If they succeed, great. You know, if they fail, let them go down fighting. Motto that I'll go for this season: loyalty to the club always. Loyalty to those that run it when they deserve it.
Brilliant. And finally, Mark.
I like that motto. That's lovely. I'm pretty much the same. I'd love the club to use the resources we've got. I don't want to skint ourselves out. I don't want to do a Leeds or a whatever. I'd just like us to use the resources we've got to give ourselves a maximum chance of success. Invest the money we've got in the team. Buy 2 or 3 top quality players that want to fight for the shirt. I think Bob Wilson said something about being an Arsenal player, that wherever you went, you had this big cannon on your chest, and what a feeling it was to know that you were part of the Arsenal. I love that sort of sentiment, and I just want players that are top quality players that are going to come and fight and drive us on, because I don't think we're that far away, to be honest.
Wonderful. And we'll go to Danny then, because it's reached that time in the show where we do our shout out. So Danny, if you want to give everybody the information on how they can sign up to the BSM and your shout outs, please.
Go to 3 little W's, where has our Arsenal gone.co.uk, and there's 2 types of membership. You've got the associate membership, which is absolutely free forever and ever. And then you have the full membership, which is £7.50 per year, runs from August to July, I'm actually a member. I've paid my £7.50, and you get a nice badge. And often you'll see on Twitter some of us talking about the questionnaire that comes through. Well, you get the questionnaire, and there's all the questions, and then you tick them and then send it off, and they collate it all. And I'm sure none of them get paid a single penny for all of that stuff that they do. And I personally, I love a good questionnaire. And then some of the parts of the questionnaire you can put in your own comments. So I put a few cheeky bits in and didn't even get a mention. Thank you very much for that, ladies. So just even if you don't want to pay any money, go and join up, absolutely free, or do as I did, dig deep and help these lovely people and all the good work they do for charity.
Your shout-outs, Danny?
I don't have any. Fuck them.
Okay, then. Raj, if you want to make up for Danny.
Yeah, I mentioned Phil Wall earlier on. Follow him. He's AST, but some of his blogs are hilarious. They're absolutely fantastic. He's got very dry humour, and he's angry of N5. The other guy that I want to mention, who will be very surprised I mentioned him, is DPowell248, Des Powell, who is completely against what I say, but we always have a respectful debate. So watch out for him. And then just finally, GAFC11, who last week was accused of being discriminatory against horses. And I just thought I'd mention that because it was probably the funniest night I've ever had in my life on Twitter.
Brilliant. Over to you, Mark.
Only a couple, really. There's a guy that I always enjoy reading his tweets. He's based down under, I think. A guy on there by the name of John Pickford. I think his handle is the N5er, and he's always got good insight. Always enjoy reading what he's got to say. Very clued up, very intelligent, knows his figures. And there's a group of lads I met for the first time when we went on the boat trip with Red Action last season. They're coming on our boat trip now in August under the handle Bridgehouse Gooners. It's a group of young lads, sort of early 20s-ish, I'm assuming. Didn't go around asking them how old they were, but passionate Arsenal fans. And I'm not in my 20s anymore, but they sort of remind me of what me and my mates were like back then, sort of in our early 20s. Passionate Gooners, love the club. They've got a fantastic flag with a picture of Tony Adams on and the old cannon. They're really, really good set of lads, and they're the kind of fans that we're sort of speaking to on a day-to-day basis. Love the club, want the best for the club, want the best for the fans. Bridgehouse Gooners for me.
And finally, Reg.
Embarrassing, really. There's not too many people that I follow, but one lad who's always been supportive of is AFC Glenn. I think he's going to buy me a pint next time he sees me.
He's got lovely pink trousers, apparently, AFC Glenn.
Is he? Oh, he can keep
that.
Yeah, he's a good friend of the show, is Glenn, isn't he, Danny?
We've been asking him to come on for ages, but he's a little bit scared.
Is he? Oh, bless him.
Well, I don't know if he's scared, but I just thought I'd say that.
I'm just scrolling through my list of Twitters here, and I'm thinking to myself, hold on, I'm thinking to myself, Bergkamp Wonderland, are they any good? Should we follow those?
No, idiots, the pair of them.
I don't know. Look, anybody who sticks their head above the parapet and then takes a load of criticism for speaking out against the club, they're the people you need to follow. They do it for the love of the club, They're not muppets. They do it because they love it, So if you see any of those out there, switch onto them straight away and start following them.
Fantastic. I've just got two for this week. My first one is the Gunners Pub, who on Twitter are at the Gunners Pub. Pop in there for a pint before the Emirates Cup, and I'm sure their lovely owners, Una and Andy, will treat you like an absolute king. I can speak personally when I say they are both lovely, lovely people. And my second one is a guy that's only recently contacted the podcast today, and we will be putting something out in a couple of days' time. His Twitter name is at GetSansomSober. He's the nephew of the great Kenny, and he'll be helping his uncle to get back on the right track. And at the podcast, we'd like to chuck all of our support behind it, and watch this space, because you will see something from us very soon. But that was it then. I'd like to thank all of you boys for coming on this evening and giving of your time. Have you enjoyed it?
No, not at all.
Oh, shit.
Bollocks.
Got so many stories to tell. It's, you could do this every week.
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah, but hold on, I'm running out of calls. I've got no vouchers left.
We should do a Myths of the Bergkamp Wonderland podcast.
No, there are no myths. Apart from no pants.
Apart from you're straight. Anyway, so that was a Bergkamp Wonderland podcast. Thank you very much for listening. Good night.
No, cheeky test driving people when I hit the dashboard. Stop!
Bang.
I don't know where that last bit come from.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
When I hit the dashboard, stop.
That's the wrong bit for the BSM, wasn't it?
Yeah, wrong BSM.